They thought they were in charge, just two officers stopping a lone driver, expecting to throw their authority around like they always did. But what they didn't realize, the woman behind the wheel wasn't just any driver. She was their new boss, the newly appointed chief of police. And this stop was about to turn their world upside down. Kendra Hayes had always been the kind of woman who let her actions speak louder than her words. Strong, determined, focused. She knew what it meant to climb uphill through a system that wasn't built to support people like her. After years of dedication and pushing past obstacle after obstacle, today marked a new beginning. Her first official day as chief of police in the lively town of Cedar View. Getting to this point hadn't been easy. She had faced setbacks, prejudice, and a justice system that seemed designed to hold her, and others like her, back. But she had kept going. Now, driving along the winding highway toward the city, the early morning sun spilling across the horizon, Kendra felt a mix of pride and pressure. Her hands gripped the steering wheel just a bit tighter. This was supposed to be a day of celebration. But something didn't feel right. Cedar View wasn't just another on the map. It had a reputation. A town known for its deeply conservative mindset, and a police department that had long been criticized for racial bias, especially toward minorities. Kendra had read every report, she'd heard all the stories. And she knew many within the department weren't happy about her appointment. A black woman, now in charge of the very force some of them had worked in for decades? It didn't sit well with everyone. But Kendra wasn't here to be liked. She was here to lead. To change things. As she approached an intersection, the light began to turn red. Suddenly, flashing red and blue lights filled her rearview mirror. A patrol car pulled up behind her. Sirens blaring. Her heart beat faster. She knew this wasn't random. Pulling over to the shoulder, her tires crunched on the gravelly edge of the road. Two white officers stepped out of the cruiser. The older one, probably in his late 40s, had broad shoulders and walked with a slow, deliberate pace. The younger one trailed just behind, his face tight and wary. Kendra lowered her window calmly, keeping her expression neutral. Her pulse was steady, but she was alert. The senior officer leaned slightly into the window, his eyes scanning the interior before locking onto her. "License and registration," he said in a firm, no-nonsense tone, one that felt a little too rehearsed. Without a word, Kendra reached into her glove box and pulled out the documents. She'd learned over time that silence, in these moments, often said the most. She handed them over. The senior officer looked at the papers with narrowed eyes, but he said nothing. The younger officer, on the other hand, wasn't as reserved. "What brings you out here?" he asked, suspicion dripping from his voice. "This area isn't exactly the safest, if you catch my meaning." Kendra felt a tight knot in her stomach, but she didn't let it show. "I'm heading to work," she said, cool and composed. "Oh yeah," the younger officer replied, leaning in closer with a smirk. "And where exactly would that be?" His tone made it clear. He had already made up his mind about her. Kendra paused. She could have revealed her position right then, put an end to the act and cleared the air. But something told her to wait. She'd been in situations like this more times than she could count. And right now, the balance of power was clear. Starting her first day by clashing with officers she would soon oversee? That didn't feel like the right move. "You'll find out soon enough," she said steadily, locking eyes with the younger officer. There was no aggression in her tone, but she made it perfectly clear she wasn't afraid. The senior officer, picking up on the tension rising between them, stepped in. "Let's not make this harder than it has to be, ma'am," he said. "We can escalate things if needed." And there it was, the quiet threat. That classic show of authority masked as politeness. Kendra felt her patience wearing thin. She'd been through this kind of treatment too many times before. The disrespect, the condescending tones, the assumptions, all based on nothing but the color of her skin. She'd worked too long and pushed through too much to let this go unanswered. Taking a deep breath, she made up her mind. Enough was enough. "That won't be necessary," she said, her voice firm and clear. "I'm Chief Kendra Hayes. And I think you should seriously reconsider how you're handling this situation." The mood changed in an instant. You could feel it. Both officers froze. The senior officer blinked, confused, his brow furrowed as the truth hit him like a brick. The younger one? His smug look dropped in a heartbeat, replaced by pure shock, and maybe even a touch of panic. "You're the chief?" the senior officer asked, stumbling over his words. "Yes," Kendra replied without flinching. "And I'd like to know why I was pulled over, and what exactly this line of questioning was meant to accomplish." For a few seconds, no one said a word. The younger officer struggled to come up with something, anything, to say. But it didn't matter. The moment had already shifted. They weren't in control anymore, and they knew it. The senior officer cleared his throat, trying to gather himself. There must have been some kind of misunderstanding, but Kendra cut him off before he could finish. "No," she said sharply. "This isn't a misunderstanding. This is the problem. You stop people like me without a reason. You jump to conclusions. You push your authority because you think you can." The senior officer opened his mouth again, but nothing came out. Because deep down, he knew she was right. Kendra's calm, steady presence only made their actions look worse. "You see," she continued, still looking directly at them, "it's officers like you who make the public lose trust in this department. And it's people like me who are here to change that." Silence. Neither officer moved. Their faces pale, their confidence completely gone. Kendra could feel the moment land with full weight. This wasn't just about her. This was about everyone who had ever been stopped, questioned, or treated unfairly, simply for not fitting someone's idea of who belonged. She opened the door and stepped out of the car, standing tall in front of them. "For the next few weeks," she said firmly, "you'll be reporting directly to me. And I'll be reviewing every single traffic stop you make. And I suggest you take a serious look at how you carry yourselves moving forward," Kendra said firmly. The senior officer finally managed to speak. We didn't mean any disrespect, Chief. It won't happen again." Kendra gave a small nod, though she didn't fully believe him. Not because of these two officers specifically, but because she knew this wasn't a one-time issue. It was part of something bigger, something deeper. That's exactly why she had taken this job to tackle the long-standing prejudice that had quietly shaped the way Cedar View's police department operated for far too long. "Good," she said quietly. Turning back to her vehicle, she drove off. Kendra finally let herself take a breath. She'd handled that situation. But there would be more. Plenty more. Being chief of police wasn't just about the badge or the title. It came with real responsibility, a duty to make sure that no one else would be treated the way she had been that morning. Later that day, Kendra called her first official department meeting. The room was packed, and the tension was hard to ignore. Every officer in the building was present, and every one of them was watching her closely. Kendra stood at the front of the room, calm and confident. The atmosphere was heavy, but she had been through worse. She didn't waste time. She went straight into the story, telling them exactly what had happened earlier that day. She left out nothing. She wanted everyone to hear it, loud and clear. "I'm not here to embarrass anyone," she began, her voice strong and steady. "But I am here to make one thing perfectly clear. This kind of behavior ends now." She scanned the room, making eye contact with officers as she spoke. "From this point forward, every single officer in this department will be held responsible for how they treat the people of Cedar View. And that includes everyone, no matter their race, their gender, or where they come from." A low murmur passed through the room. Some officers shifted in their seats. Others glanced at one another, unsure of how to react. But Kendra stood her ground. "I've spent my life standing up for justice," she continued. "I didn't get here by staying quiet. And I'm not about to start now. This is your opportunity to show this community that you wear the badge with honor. To show that you are the kind of officers who serve with fairness and integrity." She paused, letting the words settle in. "But understand this, I will not allow bias. I will not tolerate disrespect. And no one here is above the law." The room went still. Her words echoed through the silence. Some officers looked uncomfortable. Others gave small nods, silently agreeing with her message. Kendra could already tell which officers were ready to stand beside her, and which ones aren't. But that didn't change a thing. She was ready for whatever came next. Over the following weeks, word of what had happened spread throughout Cedar View. For many, it felt like a turning point. Some saw it as the beginning of real change. Others took it as a warning. The media picked up the story not long after. And soon, Kendra Hayes became more than just the new chief. She became a symbol of what the town desperately needed. Someone who wouldn't back down. Someone who would take on injustice head-on. Someone who wasn't afraid to shake the system and demand better. But Kendra knew better than anyone. This was only the beginning. There was still so much more to fix, so much more to prove. Every stop, every call, every decision she made would be watched. And she was okay with that. She hadn't spent all those years fighting just to go quiet now. The road ahead wouldn't be easy. But as she drove away from those two officers that morning, as they stood there, humbled and speechless, Kendra knew one thing without a doubt: she was exactly where she was meant to be.